New details this morning on the deaths of Fast and Furious star Paul Walker and his friend killed in a fiery car accident over the weekend.
Paul wanted to go for a ride in the car, so they went for a ride, and that was the last step.
We have confirmed 2 DOA.
Life is too short, and the greatest curse is falling in love with someone. If the phrase is true, it is strikingly prophetic because the actor, who would have turned 50 on September 12th, is part of a list of artists who have fulfilled the maxim, live fast, die young. That's right, we're talking about Paul Walker, known for the Fast and Furious series. He sure was one of the most beloved guys out there. Unfortunately, his life was cut short after a terrible accident. Who knew that his love for cars would ultimately become his cause of death? In this video, we will explore the circumstances that led to his untimely death.
He was a big kid. He was a big kid.
He liked to go fast.
Walker was born in California, but grew up in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles. The first of 5 siblings, his beauty came from his genes because of his mother, Cheryl Crabtree, who had been a beautiful model. Paul Walker II, his father, worked in construction, but fascinated his children by telling them stories about him as a professional boxer and a 2-time Golden Gloves champion. If those anecdotes were interesting, much more so were those of his grandfather, Paul Walker I, who, in addition to being a boxer, survived the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. And what captivated his grandson the most was that he was a test driver for Ford cars in the 1940s. Between war stories, boxers, and catwalks, Paul assimilated religious narratives. His father was a member of the Mormon movement, and the entire family attended services at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Maintaining a home with 5 children was not easy, and to contribute to the family economy, Cheryl continued to do sporadic jobs as a model. Paul asked to accompany her, and she agreed. Her friendly poise added to her beauty and meant that she soon got more jobs than her mother. She alternated schoolwork with recording commercials. My parents never thought of my acting in terms of a career. They saw it as a way to help with household expenses, he would admit. It is known, or it is sensed, that half of the young people of Los Angeles want to enter the world of acting, and the other half dream of dedicating their time to other areas of great passion, such as surfing. Walker belonged to this group. Every time I go surfing, I look around and think, who can believe that there's no God? Is this all a mistake? I just found it amazing, he said. When he finished high school, and although he had acting experience, he decided that his thing was not film sets, but the sea, and have wanted to study marine biology at a community college, and imagined to have a future as Jacques Cousteau rather than Al Pacino, immersed in the world of oceans and invertebrate zoology.
I was involved with the Junior Ranger program, and they take us out and we look in the tide pools and that sort of thing. And I loved it, you know, starfish and sea anemones and sea urchins and just all that stuff. I was fascinated with it.
From time to time, he did do some modeling work to pay for studies and for surfer suits. Known for his passions, he did not hesitate to call when his former representative was invited to audition for the role of a surfer in the series Touched by an Angel. A week later, he landed a small role in the film Pleasantville, starring Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon. Walker left biology to pursue acting. His decision was not the product of a divine revelation or an overwhelming passion, but rather of practical reasoning. I realized that acting was a great job to earn money and be able to continue surfing without having to assume any responsibility. He unexpectedly landed significant roles, including a soccer star in The Game of Champions, a teenage love story in Ella Esasi, and the psychological thriller Secret Society, produced by Neil Moritz and directed by Robert Cohn. It was the director who told Paul that he reminded him of Steve McQueen when he was young and recommended that he take acting more seriously. When Moritz and Cohen were considering a new film featuring street racing in Southern California, they told me that I could play a police officer, drive fast cars, date a beautiful protagonist, and that they would also pay me, he said, explaining that he had accepted without hesitation because it was every young man's fantasy come true. That fantasy became a big business. The Fast and Furious saga. Walker played the role of Brian O'Connor, a police officer who infiltrates a gang of streetcar racers led by Dominic Toretto, Vin Diesel. The film had almost no plot, but it did have visual adrenaline, fantastic cars, and charismatic protagonists. If someone wanted to look for a story to think about or debate about cinema, the option was to accelerate to another Aldo. But if what you wanted was to have a potholers and Ferrero moment, it was ideal. The collection at the box office proved it. The first weekend in the United States alone, it raised double its budget of $38 million. When Vin Diesel withdrew from the second film after a salary dispute, Walker became the star. But when he opted not to participate in the third installment, it seemed that the franchise was running out of fuel. Few remember the fourth film, But in the 5th and 6th, Walker and Vin Diesel returned, and with them, the premium gasoline, the increasingly elaborate races and chases, and the increasingly loyal audience, and the profits. Although in Fast and Furious, Paul demonstrated striking skill as a driver, acting was not his thing. "I'm an actor and that's my job, but it's not my life. I've many other interests," he declared. He was nominated several times for Worst Actor at the Razzie Awards and took it with humor. The thing is that if his on-screen skills were questionable, the ones he showed driving cars were unquestionable. Passionate about driving, he became a professional driver and even joined a firm dedicated to car modification and manufacturing parts for high-performance engines. Although he was the owner and a movie celebrity, he most enjoyed not being able to take apart engines and grease himself. His employees marveled because he worked at the same time in the workshop like a fellow nut and not a devo. His success as an actor allowed him to develop his passion as a car collector. For his participation in Rapido, he earned more than $40 million and invested not in toy cars, but in luxury cars. He bought more than 30 sports cars, a Ferrari 360, several BMWs, a Toyota Supra, and a Nissan Skyline. Among others, he also added some motorcycles. With one of them, he had a serious accident from which he was able to recover in 2008. If being an actor was his job and cars were his passion, he also had a charitable side. He founded Reach Out Worldwide, an NGO to help victims of natural disasters with teams of qualified volunteers who helped after the Haiti earthquake, the Indonesian tsunami, and the Philippines typhoon Haiyan. Walker himself did not hesitate to move forward from words to actions, and in 2010 he got on a plane to help Chile when the country was hit by an earthquake. Another of the altruistic acts that he was known for was in 2004 when he traveled to Sri Lanka after one of the most devastating tsunamis that the region faced. In addition to his financial donation, he worked alongside the firefighters and assistants who assisted the victims. Young and successful, no one imagined that the famous actor's days would end on November 30th, 2013, when he got into one of the jewels of his collection, a Porsche Carrera GT. Driven by Roger Rhodes, his friend and financial advisor. Walker was only 40 years old, and that, his last race, lasted just a few minutes. The two were headed for a charity event held for victims of Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines. The vehicle was moving at about 120 kilometers per hour when it went out of control, hit a pole, hit a tree, and exploded on an avenue in Santa Clara, north of Los Angeles. The driver and passenger both died. Walker survived the explosion, but was burned to death inside of the vehicle, trapped by his seat belt.
Paul wanted to go for a ride. Wanted to go for a ride in the car, so they went for a ride, and that was the last that we saw of them.
The sudden death of Paul Walker. Death took him in the middle of recording of the Fast and Furious 7. "I am heartbroken. I can't process anything," wrote James Wan, director of the 7th installment, through his Twitter account. "Brother, I'm going to miss you a lot. I'm speechless. Heaven has gained a new angel. Rest in peace." Vin Diesel said goodbye on social media. Producers and executives were faced with a difficult decision, whether to continue ahead or not. And since the show must go on, they chose to rewrite history, to film the missing pieces with the actors' brothers, Caleb and Cody, who served as body doubles, and his face was inserted with CGI. Additionally, they used dialogue from deleted scenes from other films. Although the budget was raised from $50 million to $250 million due to the use of technology, the result was incredible. It was difficult for viewers to distinguish which scenes Walker filmed and which were done using CGI. With the death of the actor, a family dispute began. Walker was the father of Meadow, and the result of his relationship with Rebecca Soteros, with whom he never lived but always had a good relationship. The girl lived with her mother in Hawaii until 2012, when she went to live with her father in California. During the best part of the meeting, the accident occurred, and Meadow was 15 years old at the time. 4 months after Paul's death, the actor's mother requested custody of her granddaughter, and in her will, Walker had asked that her mother and her ex-partner take care of the girl. But Cheryl claimed that her daughter-in-law could not take care of her minor due to her problems with alcohol, and she took the case to court. Her legal guardianship was left in the hands of Vin Diesel, who integrated her into her family like another daughter. When Meadow Walker got married in October 2021, it was Vin Diesel who walked her down the aisle. After the accident, Meadow, along with her loyals, opened an investigation to determine what had happened. At the time, there was talk of mechanical defects.
We have confirmed 2 DOA.
And a year later, justice determined that what happened was due to the fact that the impact was at more than 150 kilometers per hour, where the maximum speed allowed in that place was 70. Unfortunately, this was Paul's destiny. He had to join the list of stars such as James Dean, Grace Kelly, and Princess Diana, who died in a car accident. Meadow continued to try to find out the truth, and in 2017 reached an agreement with the German automaker. According to the company, it was technically impossible for the car's cabin to be destroyed, as it happened. In the midst of litigation, the financial settlement amounted to $10 million. 10 years have passed since the death of the actor, who would have turned 51 this year, and his memory is still present. And the thing is, as those of us who have loved or admired someone who generates enjoyment in us and they're absent, generates nostalgia. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and leave a suggestion for what story you want to hear in the next video.